Khuddaka Nikaya, the Minor Discourses, the Theragāthā, verses of the Arahant Bhikkhus. Sattakanipāta, Book of 7 Verses. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theragāthā 7.1 Sundara Samudda Thera. By adorning and beautifying herself, all dressed up in her shining jewelry and colorful makeup, with detailed henna meticulously decorating both her feet. This prostitute keeps trying to tease me with every gesture she makes, attempting to seduce me even with her feet. Feigning veneration, she carefully slid her adorned slippers off, while holding her hands in a respectful anjali, beaming a wide and inviting smile on her face. She tenderly and flirtatiously spoke to me, using sweet words that had no other intention but to entice, as she said, "You have gone forth so very young, long before your time. Come inside where it's warm, and where you can practice my dispensation for a change, tasting and enjoying all the deliciousness that our human senses have in store, along with the fleshy delights they will provide. A world of unimaginable satisfaction is what I promise to you. Know this to be the truth. This I swear to you upon the flame I hold so sacred in my home. And when we both have reached old age together, we'll both find ourselves leaning onto our elderly canes as we go forth together in that long-distant future. That way we'll be smart in living our lives, having by then enjoyed ourselves fully on both accounts. So it was where I saw that prostitute trying her best to seduce me, with her hands in front of her heart in anjali, all covered up in her makeup and jewelry. A well laid out trap. A snare of death was all that I saw, really, with me as its victim to be. But right at that moment, I placed my firm attention properly at the very source, the contact being made, and suddenly it all became clear. The very danger in what I was experiencing, as disgust arose in me towards the entire world, with disenchantment spread throughout. It was then that the heart was finally released, as the excellent Dhamma was directly seen, and the 3 knowledges I did attain on that very spot. And thus completed is now my training in the Buddha's noble teaching. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sundara Samudda. Theragāthā 7.2 Lakuṇṭaka Bhaddiya Thera. Here, on the far side of the Untitled monastery, sitting in seclusion among the forest thicket, Bhaddiya strives on as he meditates, unwavering in his efforts, having already pulled out constant craving from its very roots. That's how Bhaddiya lives his life nowadays, by spending it absorbed in meditation. While the majority delight in the sound of drums and musical instruments, whether in the plucking of harp strings or the chiming of cymbals, I, on the other hand, sit here at the foot of this tree, where you'll see me continuously delighting in the teaching, the dispensation I received from the Buddha, the Blessed One, himself. If it would ever be the case where the Buddha might grant me a wish, then my only wish would be to have every being in existence to practice and experience full awareness of the body in an ongoing manner, keeping one's awareness upon the mindfulness of the physical body, and to just stay with it no matter what. Many have been those who laughed at me or made fun of me based on the shape of my body or the way I look. Many, too, are those who were deeply touched by my voice, wanting to somehow possess or to follow me, being filled with some desire in one way or the other. But all those people could not see beyond their passions. Thus, they haven't a clue as to who I am, for they never truly came even close to knowing me. Thus, while being clueless as to what lies inside beneath this surface, nor aware of that which truly is on the outside, the fool remains shut from all sides and fully blocked, surrounding himself with all kinds of obstructions, simply due to being touched or entranced by the voice they hear coming from me. The same goes for those who, while being totally unaware as to who I am on the inside, stopped short at my visible form, seeing only my short stature and not much else. Externally being stuck, they never get to look beyond the physical, or at the most are carried away, too, like the others, simply because of the voice they hear coming out of me. But it's only those who are able to truly discern and see, by penetrating and witnessing what's really inside, while not being stuck by my appearance, as they observe whatever's on the outside. Those who possess the unobstructed vision to see things as they truly are the ones who remain unhindered, for they are never swept nor carried away by the voice they hear coming from me. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Lakuṇṭaka Bhaddiya. Theragāthā 7.3 Bhadda Thera. I was my parents' one and only little child, loved dearly by both my mother and my father equally, parents who had struggled so much to have a child and for so long, until they were finally able to have me, their child, after having practiced so many rites, rituals, and the countless vows they made. So it was through their enormous love and compassion that they had for me, in wanting the very best and ultimate of blessings for me, their child, that my father and mother chose to take me to see the Blessed One himself, and declare in his presence their deep longing which they carried in their hearts, while stating the following. With much hardship and difficulty were we able to have our son, O great teacher. He is our precious little one, so very delicate and tender, O Lord. But now we offer him to you, O protector of all, so that he can now live as your disciple and become a lifelong attendant to the great conqueror. Then, having accepted me as an offering from my parents, the teacher turned to Ananda and said, Ananda, quickly ordain this child and give him the going forth immediately, for this one is sure to become a thoroughbred sooner than you think. Thus, having instructed for me to receive the going forth, the great conqueror then went into his kuti, where he spent the rest of the day in seclusion. Meanwhile, right before the sun had set, that very same day, my heart was fully released. Then, in wanting to acknowledge me, the teacher came out of his seclusion and called out to me, Come, Bhadda! And that itself was my higher ordination. I was only 7 years old when this took place, as I then and there received my higher ordination, and with it I attained to the 3 higher knowledges on the spot. Oh, how wonderful it is, indeed, the excellence, the utterly supreme beauty of the Dhamma. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Bhadda. Theragāthā 7.4 Sopāka Thera, his second. On seeing the greatest of beings so serenely pacing in the shade, while on his walking meditation, going back and forth, was when I approached, ever so watchfully, and by humbly placing my head at his feet, I bowed and paid homage to the greatest among all beings. Having arranged my upper robe over one shoulder, and with my hands placed one on top of the other, mindfully held in front of my body, I followed him in his footsteps in meditation ever so closely, walking quietly behind and alongside my teacher, the supreme specimen among all beings in existence. It was then that the wisest of the wise, the master in skillfully asking questions, turned to me, his disciple, as he began questioning me. And with fearless certitude and audacious fortitude in my heart, I began answering the questions the teacher asked of me, one after the other. Then, on having answered each of the questions he asked, I saw the pleasure on the Tathagata's face, as he turned to the witnessing Bhikkhu Sangha nearby, and expressed his approval in having heard my replies, while exclaiming the following words for all to hear. It truly is a wonderful blessing, and to their great benefit, how all those people in Anga and Magadha who've eagerly provided their services and kindness, along with the robes, alms food, shelter, and the requisites necessary, which this one here now rightfully enjoys. For they have acquired great blessings indeed, all those who have happily given him their generosity and support. These words the Blessed One declared for all to hear. Then the Lord Tathagata continued by saying, "From now on, Sopāka, feel free to come and see me whenever you like. And this, Sopāka, you may now consider as your higher ordination itself." This took place when I was only 7 years old, the very day I was given my higher ordination by the Tathagata himself. Now, this is the only and final body I am to experience. Oh, how wonderful it is, indeed, the excellence, the utterly supreme beauty of the Dhamma. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sopāka. Theragāthā 7.5 Sarabhaṅga Thera. This hut I have built in the past by cutting down reeds and twigs with my own hands, and then shaping them into a dwelling for me to live in, which is why I did receive the common name Sarabhaṅga, or the one who breaks off reeds. However, now it is not possible for me to go and break twigs or reeds any more, as I did once in years gone past. For now it neither is appropriate nor acceptable for me, a bhikkhu, as dictated by the rules of training we follow, put in place by the matchless and glorious Gautama. Whereas in the past, in being Sarabhaṅga, I was clueless and couldn't see the entire chain of sickness and its connections. But now that I understand what is to be understood, I can see clearly the very connections to sickness and disease altogether, given the training I received from the teacher, whom gods from every heaven come to worship. The path traveled in the distant past by the Buddhas Vipassi, Sikhi, Vesabhu, Kakusandha, Konagamana, and Kassapa too. Gautama, the Buddha of our age, now has also taken by walking that very same path himself. Thus, by releasing themselves from passion and to constant craving, these 7 Buddhas verily ended grabbing onto anything, and thereby plunged into the deathless, and became indistinguishable from the Dhamma itself, which is why they were able to reveal it to a world that was lost in the dark, and thus helped beings liberate themselves too, through the means of this same Dhamma they preached. In showing them the 4 Noble Truths out of compassion, they openly shared the teaching, liberating beings from suffering, from the cause and origin of suffering, revealing to them that there is in fact an end to all this suffering, but especially by showing them the very path that leads to its cessation, thereby bringing about the destruction of suffering for all, once and for all. In this way, they showed us the way to put an end to the continuous and ceaseless cycles of rebirth, by closing the door for more, and how at the moment when this body dies, there will be no more states of becoming to migrate into. No more future births or states of being waiting for us to be born into. For this reason, it is with certainty unmatched that I say, I know I am now utterly freed and in every way. These were the verses spoken by the Venerable Sarabhaṅga. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.